Here's Bruce Hill, New Skills, New You, driving revenue through personal and professional development. We help you turn more conversations into clients. We help you hear yes more often without sounding salesy. So this segment, we're going to keep it short, sweet. I always say that, and it ends up being an hour, right? Is the Sales Made Simple workshop. I have my good friend here, Jennifer J. She's going to help us help you grow your business. And this is the perfect person because when we get to the sections on processes, I'm going to make sure her link's in here when we talk about automating our business, right? So that the business runs itself, it doesn't run us. So I'm really excited that she was able to join. And as a gratitude, we're going to help build a sales strategy for her business. All right. So let me go ahead and do tab. There we go. I believe that sales doesn't have to be complicated. Now, let me increase my font here a little bit. I do know that simple isn't always easy. And some things take a little bit of work. I always use an example. If you have to pick up a 10-pound weight, it's the same as picking up a 100-pound weight. It's the same motion, right? But it isn't the same level of difficulty. So it's simple, but is it easy? And the reason I always start with a blank page on these, I could talk you through some slides, but I always want to teach this one live because it's going to be unique to your business. It's going to be unique to your circumstances. So there's lots of resources if you follow us on LinkedIn, if you follow us on YouTube, that are general. But when it comes to building a sales strategy and keeping it as simple as possible, it's going to be specific for your business. Now, first things first, we got to start with what is sales? How do we define sales and selling? And this is where I believe a lot of people struggle with selling for their business because they're like, well, I need revenue, but somehow they don't want to sell. They feel bad about selling. They feel guilty about selling. They feel anxiety around selling. And I understand that. Or maybe they're like, well, we're selling, we're just not selling enough. Maybe we have some good, word of mouth, good referrals, but it's not predictable. Okay. Maybe you have reached a point where you have a sales team, and they could be doing better. You want a positive ROI on that investment. Because you get stuck at a point where you're back at the beginning, like, man, I could just do this myself. So how do we increase revenue without isolating, without ostracizing the client that we're working so hard to serve? And this is the question that this training was created on. That question is where I wrote this. And it was actually originally designed for introverts. Shout out to all the introverts that get to watch this. How do I make it so simple that even an introvert, someone with no sales training, can drive revenue through the business on purpose, predictably and consistently? That's the question. So here's how we do that. First things first, we're going to redefine sales. And I hope if you're taking notes, no takers are money makers. It's just a very simple definition of sales. And this switch is going to empower you to drive revenue, and it's going to free you from guilt around driving revenue. This is the definition. I didn't invent this definition, but it served me well over the years. Let me not get ahead of myself. When we say, hey, have you seen that new movie? Man, what movie? Oh man, this is the title. It was so good. I don't even want to spoil it for you. You have to go see it. That's that decision. Say, okay, you say it's a good movie. I'm going to go see it. They say, man, I just found this new restaurant for all my folks in Atlanta was Slutty Vegan open. There was lines out the door. That was enthusiasm. Let me put that italics, bold, underline it. All right. They were so excited. They were willing to wait 30 minutes, an hour and a half to try this new restaurant. And so what I need you to understand about sales is sales happens first Actually, let me put it like this. The money shows up later. Once we recognize that sales is not about the money, that's just a measurement of our effectiveness, but that sales is a transfer of enthusiasm, we can begin to have more positive emotions around selling. This is important for the rest of the framework to make sense. For the rest of us to be able to make sales simple, we have to have this first. All right. So I'm just going to bookmark this actually. There you go. So now the question becomes, how do I transfer enthusiasm? How do I let the potential client, the process of the future client, know that working with me is good for their life and business? That as a direct result of working with me, it's going to improve their situation, the situation is in. Okay. So now we look at sales as a act of service. So selling, let me put it like this. Selling is the transfer of enthusiasm. Sales is an act of service. This is a chance for me to give to you. You might have heard the phrase add value. People will trade you happily in exchange for some form of compensation. We don't have to convince them. We don't have to beg them. What else do people do? No manipulating, right? No tricking, no lying. If we can explain to them, that's not how you spell lying. I'm a sales trainer, not a spelling bee champ. We can explain to them working with us will get you faster and or easier. We want to find people that want this outcome. So now selling is a transfer of enthusiasm, right? It's not convincing, it's not begging, it's not manipulating, it's not tricking, it's not lying, right? Sales is an act of service. I want to find people that are happy to work with me. So here's what we do. Here's the 4 framework. I'm going to tell you what, and then we're going to go through how. Here's the 4P framework. This is how, excuse me, this is what, and we'll go into how. First things first is people. One of my mentors, Dr. David Twilley, he told me, Bruce, the only business is people. The next is promise. A lot of traditional sales trainings will talk about selling to the problem. And I had to switch this because for 2 reasons. I believe it's a scarcity mindset. And I believe also that when we start running into really great businesses, they don't really have problems. They just want to get to a better outcome. I'm not saying every business is perfect or any business is perfect, but if we look for problems, they don't have any. What do? We don't serve them. I think there's still room to serve, and we focus on the promise. So the note for this one is, where will we go together? All right. They've been running a business without you for however many months, years, decades. But if we work together, what's going to happen? Being able to answer that question, all right, coming back up here, and get them excited about that possibility, that's where we're going to drive revenue. That's where we're going to get new clients. That's where we're going to hear yes more often. All right. So then there's a process. How will we make it happen? This is an internal question, but it's a question the client's going to ask you. A consistent process produces predictable results. Our guest here, Jennifer J, she's good on predictable results. We'll talk about this one. I'm excited about this section. And last but not least is price. This is a Bruce Hill quote. Make it easy to do business with you. People shouldn't have to go out to the field under the full moon, turn around with the rotation of Earth 3 times, and chant this magical spell in Latin to get a meeting with you. Being facetious, but that's what you're doing when going back and forth through emails, or maybe part of the conversation is on LinkedIn, part of it's on Instagram, part of it's a text message. Make it easy to do business with you. Let me stop right there. Always pause. Any questions, comments, concerns? I've done this so many times, I want to make sure I don't go too fast. Wonderful, rock and rolling. And here's the thing: if you're watching the recording, wherever it is, you leave a comment, I will answer that. I'm moving all of those to one platform, but right now my goal is to make sure you excel simple for your business. All right, let's keep rocking. Let's keep rolling. Let's start with people. There's two groups of people. There's two groups. There's your internal people. Come on. And there's external. Right? Simple. Internal people are working in your business. The external folks are going to be the people our business is serving. The very, very simple question you want to ask is who does what? That's the internal question. A lot of times, let's talk to the solopreneurs. A lot of times, that's you. That's the answer to that question is you. You're doing everything. You're wearing all the hats. And you really don't have a business. You have a job. You have a couple of jobs, hopefully a well-paying job. For my leaders, for my frontline sales leaders, your clarity on the roles and that roles responsibilities will improve the effectiveness of the team member. Also, as a leader, whether you're a sales leader or the business owner, you have to recognize that you should not be doing everything. Whether or not you can do everything is irrelevant. In order to scale revenue, in order to make sales simple, you have to answer this question, and the answer being you should be as few times as possible. Right? You should be in the equation as limited as possible. That's when we're starting to build a business that can scale. Now, at the beginning, again, so for my speakers, my coaches, consultants, that may be you a lot. We're going to talk about how to retire yourself through processes. But this question is so important. Let me see if I can find something. Give me one moment. I just made an organizational chart. I was doing the exercise. Oh, here it is. Perfect. I just wrote this today, breaking down an organizational chart, asking this question because I try to leave my example. I say, who needs to do what? And so I had written down a sales manager, and I started describing the role. And I realized I had written down two positions. I had someone that's making calls, and then someone that's tracking revenue and activity. And then I did the same thing for a customer success team, right? Who is taking care of the customer? What happens after they say yes? That's this person. Then I realized if there's more than one of them, guess what? I'm going to need a manager. Now, if you are a very small team, these two might be the same person. But answering the question, who does what, helps you to serve your clients with excellence. It helps you to drive revenue on purpose. So an answer to this question is a fundamental place to start when we talk about making sales simple. All right. Now, here's the next question I love. I think a lot of times we hear, what do you do? Or they'll even say, who do you do it for? Right? Who's your client avatar? I came up with this question last month. And I realized that while I can serve quite a few groups of people at many stages in their life or career, many levels of the business, this is the question I have to ask. Who can I serve the best, the highest with excellence? Who gets the most results with the least amount of effort from work? That's the person. Oh, I love that. Who And that's why I do this one. I build this live almost every time I do it. These two questions, if you can answer this, it changes your email copy, it changes your marketing messaging, it changes your sales calls. And guess what? As a result, it changes your revenue. You hear yes more often. You don't have to beg people. Hold on, let's go back up here. Right? I don't have to beg people to work with me. All I have to tell them is like, hey, I've worked with clients just like you. Or let's say this is your very first client. Let's say you're launching a startup. You don't even have a first client yet. Then it would sound like this. I said, hey, you look like the person we built this solution for. We believe, I hear that sometimes when I hear sales is a transfer, I hear belief. I think actually Kirkwood says belief. And I hear confidence sometimes. I don't know why my font keeps switching. I think they're all correct. I'm not going to say one's better than the other, right? We believe, we're confident that this solution is the best solution for you. It's going to help you create the best outcome. Now, remember the 4P framework. We're going to go to the promise. That's next. Will you give us the opportunity to prove it? I love that question. That is a closing question, but I don't want to teach you all to be killer closers, master manipulators, right? I want you to be the authentic version of yourself, the one that just hears yes more often. This question right here. Hey, we believe you're the best person we can work with to get the most results in the least amount of time. Will you give us the opportunity to prove it? So the ideal client's going to say yes. And say, wow, I'm excited to work with you. Right? There goes that enthusiasm. There goes that belief. I believe you mean every word you say. I'm confident that you are the person to help me with this. Yes. What do I do? Got to do to get started. We'll talk about pricing here in a little bit. If you can clearly answer this question, it makes it easier to find that ideal client. It should be so clear you can describe it to someone else and they can go find it for you. So now, right now we have a lead generator. Because the answer to this question, we can generate better leads. Okay. Because the answer to this question, we can have stronger sales calls. Because the answer to this question, we will hear yes more often. I often say, almost every talk, it sneaks its way in there somehow. If you sell Advil, go find people with headaches. I'm not a medical doctor, please see a professional for medical advice. But the point is simple. I don't want to convince you that this is the best solution if it's not the right solution for you. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to trick you. I'm going to, hey, do you have a headache? Yeah, man, my head's pounding. Man, do you want it to stay that way? No, I don't. Hey, here's the solution. And it's very different. Now, they have some questions. Well, is it safe? I'm on blood pressure medication, maybe. Right. And the allergic reactions to be worried about. What's the cost? That's fine. Those are good questions. Those are I'm interested questions. Those aren't objections. So I really don't even teach objections because we're talking to the right person, has the problem we solve so we can serve them the best. It becomes an education conversation, not interrogation or persuasion or manipulation conversation, right? This is a very, very powerful question. You know what I'm going to do? No, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to highlight this one green. You should ask this question to yourself every day. Wake up this morning, who can I serve the best today? All right, excellent. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Let's talk about promise. Okay, where are you going? That's what the client is asking themselves. So let's put it like this. That's what you need to ask about your life and business. Whether it's for your team, this company goals, whether you're the founder of the business and you're looking at a vision, right? I'm going to scale franchise or I'm going to exit. If you're an entrepreneur, hey, I'm going to keep this solo or am I going to grow and hire a team, right? Where am I going? So remember, go back to here. Go back this one. Every question has internal and external implications, right? So internally, inside of your business, inside your heart and mind, it's inside your team, right? In your leadership meetings, where am I going? That's such an important question. And I actually believe that preempts where am I now? Because where you are now is only a point of reference. It's not your future identity. That's another training for another day. Externally, what is your client asking? Hey, where am I going? What are they trying to accomplish? Are they trying to hire? Maybe they need a recruiter. Maybe they can hire people, but they can't keep them. Is that a training issue, an onboarding issue? Is it a salary issue? Maybe it's a management issue. Maybe bad management is driving away good people. Where am I going is such a powerful question. It really needs to be 10 questions, right? But that's the simplest version I can give you for the sake of time. So let's talk. So we'll do a business planning workshop one of these days, but let's talk about, since we're talking about making sales simple, since this is our goal for today, there we go. So this is a perfect example, right? When I'm like, okay, when I write this workshop, where am I going? I don't know if I said this out loud. If you ask yourself these questions and then implement them in the business, my goal for you is 2 additional clients, what you're already going to acquire, 2 additional clients before the next 90 days. The record, I think, is 3 weeks. Did a training for a gentleman. I always keep it pretty small. I think it's less than 5 people. And they messaged me. I don't even know if it's 2 weeks later. He's like, hey, I did what you said. I got 2 new clients. We've already onboarded. I was like, all right. And then something I said works. It's not magic. It just doesn't work if you don't do the work. So for this training, I asked myself, where am I going? Hey, my goal for you, the outcome, is 2 new clients directly because you implement in this training. Okay? And the only reason it'll take 90 days is because some of these questions don't have obvious answers. I'll give you a little trick. If you ask yourself this question, write down your response. If you have to type it, fine. But I encourage you to write down your response. That forces you to articulate the answer. And that's honestly what takes 90 days. If you're an action taker, you might be able to get it done sooner. Depends on the size of your projects and pricing. We'll get to that. 90 days, that's the goal. All right, so where am I going? When we ask that for the client, our service, product, or solution should be in alignment or in direct support of the outcome, right? And promise just has a nice ring to it, right? I love a good alliteration. It's very simple. So if it's oversimplified, you can throw a question in the chat. And then one of the things I've created is a sales success group where you can come and ask questions on a regular basis. So we'll get all that in the notes. What I want for you, though, to understand is that sales is simple, not easy. When we have clarity and and answers to these questions, that's what makes it simple. We have a lot of times we go through without real clear process, without clear direction, without clear practices or consistent practices. So inconsistent practices get inconsistent results. And there's processes for everything except, right? We got marketing strategy, we got a social media strategy, we've got email strategy, business strategy. We don't have a sales strategy. It's not quite as attractive as a title, say build a sales strategy, but that's what we're doing. We're building a sales strategy so you can consistently turn more conversations into clients. So we're not even talking about turning on ads, right? We're not even talking about DMing every person on your list, and beyond what you're already doing. If we can just turn more of the conversations you're already having in class, we're in business. We're talking about scaling in when we get to process. So now a sales strategy is how we consistently, predictably increase revenue. Right? And it starts with answering these questions. You'll notice that all of these, the framework really is about getting clarity and answer these questions. That's the first layer. Next layer. So if you want to work with me directly, for example, we over 90 days, we implement what we want. We dial down the answers to questions. I might challenge you on some of your answers, and then we work on creating SOPs and implementing in your business. So that's one-on-one because everybody's business is different, even if you do the same thing. So for this framework, again, we're going over the what very quickly on the how. It's up to you to execute. If you need help executing, taking the notes on how to get on the calendar. But I believe if you just follow just from this training, you'll be this much closer to hearing yes more often. Next up, this is the one that I'm always, this is my favorite part. Process. Consistent. What? Consistent practice creates predictable results, right? I've done it so many times, I know what the outcome is. This is where we start getting into what's called sales enablement, right? How do we make it easy for our clients to do business with us? How do we make it easy for our clients to do business with us? So remember, there's an internal and external. So internal processes, those are our standard operating procedures. This is Jennifer J. Put your link, whichever one you want, into the chat so I can add it in here. If someone says, man, I need help with my processes and they want to get some help, let's make sure they know how to reach out to you. So a process is what to do and how to do it. So if I say, hey, I need you to hop on these sales calls and I want you to ask these 10 questions in this order. If customer says yes, do this. If customer says no, do this. And if customer says maybe, do this. Right? That's a procedure. That's an internal procedure. But let's talk about the external procedure. This is externally, the client wants to go from where they are to where they want to be. And the distance between these two, I call it the sales distance. Some people call it gap selling. There's lots of ways to break it down. So where they are, and again, this might not be a bad place. That's why I don't care with pain, but I love a good alliteration. It just might be not where they want to stay. So the distance between those two, the sales distance, is how much they are willing to pay. Okay, think about it. If you want to go from Uber to the grocery store, maybe it's $10, right? Grocery store is not too far. But if you want to take a Uber Lyft to the airport, it could be $50, $60. Why? It's a greater distance. Now, check this out. How soon they want to achieve the promise is how quickly they will pay. So let's think about it. You're like, I'm not paying $60 for Uber. I'll just go to the MARTA, I'll hop on the train and go down to the airport. But if you're like, man, my flight is leaving, it's boarding in the next hour, I got to get to the airport now, you are going to pay much more quickly. All right. You're like, well, we'll give you a call. We'll call you back when we're ready. We'll look at this again next quarter. You may have heard all of these things. They don't have any urgency to achieve the promise, or there's not a very big distance for things. So what you want to do is have a process in place to get them from here to here. And then you want to have a process in place to make it easy for them to pay when they're ready to take action. That we'll talk about this a little bit more in pricing. So the process is how and what. If you work with us, we're going to get you from A to B. They're going to ask you how. You have to have an answer for that. You may not tell them the full answer, right? Because you end up spending 3 hours on the phone. That's not what I'm saying. You say, hey, listen, we have a process. So for me, I would say, hey, we're going to use the 4P framework. That's the how, in order to increase your revenue. That's the what. See how easy that is? See how simple that is? So the customer says, okay, Bruce has a process. I can trust him to help me grow my business. I'm going to give him a check. And that lets you do two things. It lets you confidently serve with excellence. Right? Go back up here. Where is sales is service? There it is. It allows you to serve with excellence. It allows you to control the time it takes to get the client to the result, assuming the client does what they're supposed to do, right? It allows you to confidently say, hey, I'm going to charge you for this because I'm confident that's going to get you to where you want to go. That's how it all fits together. So now we have the people. We're serving them with excellence. We're helping them get to where they want to go. And we have a process. So we're not guessing. We're not winging it. We're not figuring out as we go along. We got a process. Say, hey, client, process is tested. Sometimes it's just been tested on you, and that's okay. But I want you all to operate with integrity. Don't figure it out as you go. Have a process, right? So that the client gets the best experience, so that they want to tell their friends, and if it makes sense, so they can come back, right? If I say if it makes sense, so if you're doing landscaping, you put a pool in, you don't really need another pool next week. However, you want them to be so excited to work with you. They had a great experience. The process was simple. It was easy that they're going to tell other people. So maybe we have a process for referrals. That's a good process to have. Let's talk about pricing. Let's talk about pricing. Make it easy to pay. Oh, actually, I like that. Make it easy to understand. Make it easy to pay you. This one is the most frustrating thing I've run into as a trainer, as a coach, as a consultant. One of the clients, use my framework, the process. I have another process I call the question path for sales calls, right? So use the process, and she got a yes. She had 10x her offer. And I was like, okay, use this process, and we get to the yes. Okay. And so I said, great. I was like, when is your client starting? They said, well, they haven't paid yet. So why haven't they paid? They're like, well, it's not their fault. I haven't sent in the invoice. And I was like, why haven't you sent them the invoice? I said, well, I need to find a good, invoicing system. Then I write the invoice and I sent it to her. She took too long to do that. And the client ended up having a life event where she decided not to get started. And ironically, that life event is probably the reason she should have got started. That's another conversation. Success level. So if she had already paid, because it was easy to pay her, then we could have changed the schedule. Then we could have maybe paused the program. There's a lot of things happen. But now she just didn't get paid at all. Why? It was too difficult for the client. Make it easy to pay you. And that comes in two ways. So that's technically, right, as far as a technical standpoint, is it easy, right? Are you using a simple invoicing system, multiple payment options? So that could be card, ACH. I think I have mine set up that'll accept Apple Pay now. And then, you know what? That reminds me. I need to set up a firm or Afterpay or something. And so that's on a technical, right, side of things. That's this kind of goes back to processes, right? But here's the other thing here. It should be easy to understand. This is probably another reason folks get all the way to the yes. Man, I want to work with you. How much does it cost? And you don't have an answer to that question. Here's my recommendation. You should have a standard price, premium price, custom offer, right? So what does that look like? Hey, working with me, let's just use, what's a good example? All right, let's do some consulting fees. It's just $10,000 up to 10 employees for 1 quarter. Okay, boom, standard price. So now they don't have to guess, do calculator, quadratic equation to figure out how much it's going to cost. This question should never be, it depends. Well, there's a few things. I've got to put a proposal. That's my favorite thing. I'm going to put a proposal together for you. No, just tell me the answer. The premium offer, let's say we do some leadership training. I guess I should say 90 days because it's not necessarily a quarter. Right? Boom. And then I say, if you need something outside this scope of work, we can discuss. All right. That's the only time. But even then, I like to have an answer to the question. How much does it cost to work with you? So part of having a very easy to understand pricing is a simple answer, but also, let me put it down here. It's packages, right? All right. So package 1 is weekly check-ins for an hour, let's say virtually, and then daily support through Slack or email. Okay. That's it. Why does that work? Because we're already talking to the right people. We have a clear idea of where they're going. We know we have a process to create a predictable result. So let's make the pricing simple as well. And what happens is we'll go into conversations with potential clients, whether we're leading the sales team, whether we're the solopreneur talking to a potential client. It could be a referral partner, right? It could be a collaboration partner. If you're not clear on, hey, this is who I am, and understand who they are, if you understand, hey, where do you want to go? This is, I think, where people skip a lot. Where do you want to go? Okay, where are you now, but where do you want to go? Because then I say, hey, here's my solution. This process will help you get to where you want to go. Then the pricing doesn't make sense. It'll never make sense, right? You're like, hey, I want to sell you something. It's $5. You're like, all right, well, what is it? Oh, don't worry about it. It's just $5. But I mean, is it a gallon of gas? Is it a candy bar? Is it a t-shirt? What is it? And so being clear on the promise, hey, here's the outcome, makes it easier for you to present the price. And that's what I want. I want to help you make sales simple. So it does need to be all four of these things. And interesting, I believe this order facilitates the conversations and the questions. People, promise, process, price, but they're of equal importance. Right? It's a foundation. They're four pillars, if you will. We need all of these questions to be answered in order to make sales simple. In order to build a sales strategy that consistently generates revenue for our business. And to answer those questions, make it clear to us how to best serve our best client. And it makes it clear to our best client that we're the best solution. This is where we start having different conversations. This is where we have conversations that turn into clients. This is where we hear yes more often. And you don't have to sound salesy. You just have to sound confident. It's that simple. How do I do on time? Ooh, under an hour. Wonderful. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to save this document. So if you're grabbing the recording, you can also get the breakdown. I'm also going to create a worksheet, if you will, with all the questions, because there's some I asked I didn't type up. So you can do this exercise for your business. And of course, last but not least, always keep my promises. We talk about processes. I'll tell you what to do and how to do them. But listen, if you want some promises, if you want some processes, good friend at the Premier Biz Systems. I like that name. It's easy. Put in big letters. There we go. Premier Biz System. All right. They can help you set up the processes for your business. All right. Say, hey, Bruce told us to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. Can you do that? She's going to say yes. And she's going to help you automate a lot too. So you can get more out of your people. I don't believe in laying people off to save money, but I do believe that we want to maximize each and every team member. All right. Oops. Sharing the screen would help. One moment. There we go. Shout out to Premier Biz Systems for being an unofficial sponsor when we talk about building processes. There we go. Now let's see. Let's see here. Share the document, get the worksheet so that you can do this exercise for your business. I'll share some of my sales processes for each one. And she's like, you know what, Ruth, I don't want to do this on my own. I'll make sure you have an opportunity to apply and work with us. We'll make sure it's a good fit. If it's not a good fit, I'm going to tell you. Say, hey, listen, I have a better suggestion for you. And I'll refer you to some of my amazing friends. We only want to serve the clients that we can serve the best. Those are the people that are happy to work with us. They're happy to pay us. And they're going to tell other people. That's what I want for your business. That's how we make sales simple. So again, my name is Bruce Hill. With New Skills, New You. We drive revenue through personal and professional development, turning more conversations into clients, helping you hear yes more often without sounding sales. Thank you so much for being a part of this training. Go execute.